Okay, here we go. Nice and quiet.
Sound speeds, camera rolling.
Holding for sound.
Last looks. Calling for last looks.
And set and action.
I need to swap batteries.
You know, making movies is hard.
Making movies is hard.
Welcome to Making Movies is Hard, the podcast about the struggles of being an independent filmmaker. I'm Mark Bassell.
I'm Liz Manischel.
And this is episode 253 of the show. And this week, we welcome our fellow filmmaker and friend, Andrew Schrader, to talk about the effects of the coronavirus on us filmmakers as we quarantine ourselves. But before we talk to Andrew, Liz, how are you doing?
I'm okay. I've got a cold.
So you have coronavirus, basically.
I
is what
mean,
you're saying.
that is my fear. My best friend is a hypochondriac, and so I haven't even told her that I have a cold because she's very judgy. She's very judgy
Right.
that we've been out of the house at all. She's very judgy that we went and picked up groceries one day.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
You have to get groceries. Come on.
But she thinks I mean, it's a valid fear. It's a valid fear, but I also need eggs. How are you?
I'm doing well. Just before this all hit, I was working on another movie. So I got back and literally as soon as I got back from working on Red Snow, this whole thing happened. And when we were on Red Snow, it was kind of like a joke, but then South by Southwest got canceled. And then it was like things started getting canceled in a big way. And then when I got back, it was like, oh, wait, we're going to be like shelter in place and stuff. Oh, gosh.
Genuinely, this is very weird. Like, all jokes aside, this is like a little panic attack every single day. Like, you cannot leave. I made some joke on Twitter, like, I'm an introvert control freak, or like, I really do want to stay inside, but I don't want anyone to tell me I have to stay inside. And like, every day it's like facing your control issues. Like, I can't go outside. I can't do anything I want to do for the risk of the nation. This is a bad segue that I'm going into. I'm just saying, I want to acknowledge that this is very, very hard.
I've been staying inside, and because I'm a homebody anyway, so catching up on video games and watching movies, and I have a whole movie to edit too. That all aside, I think we should get to our first segment of the day, which is our news segment. And briefly, we already kind of talked about what we're doing very roughly. Liz, what have you been doing, since, right before the coronavirus hit and since it hit?
Before it hit, we shot a short called Lena. We're in post on that right now. We're almost at picture
nice.
lock. Yeah, it's amazing. I'm very, very proud of it. And we're about to start working with our composer. And then we set dates for feature 3, Lady Parts, and that'll be June. It starts mid-June. It ends the last week of July. So we've talked to our one attached cast member, and she's fine going forward in June. So we're just crossing our fingers that we'll get to do that.
It's exciting. It's so great that to have something in post right now. It's like the perfect time to be in post on a project.
That's true.
I feel so lucky. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have a whole feature to edit. This is great. Lock me in my room. Go away.
You're so positive. I mean, I think that it's really good to get out of your head when you're in post. And when we're sheltering in place, it's very hard to get a different perspective. So I don't know. Again, I'm an introvert. I just want to be told it's okay to go outside, and then I will stay inside willingly. So I'm just looking forward to that.
It's okay to go outside, Liz, as long as you're 6 feet away from someone else. No problem.
That's all I needed to know. Thanks, Alrik.
So on to actual news. No Film School has a really interesting article about COVID-19 and how to recover lost income as a filmmaker is their clickbaity title. The first 2/3 of this article are all about how you can apply to go on unemployment and disaster relief fund and all these other things where you can squeeze money out of the government.
I think they're working on it. It just hasn't been approved yet in terms of the 1K or 2K stipend that people are suggesting, right? It's currently being voted on, I think, in the news right now.
But here's where I think it actually gets interesting. There's some suggestions for getting creative with your side hustle. And this is kind of just stuff that you do during the winter, or when you're slow. But they're just saying, pitch yourself to clients, upload your films to new platforms, convert yourself to online events.
Well, that's what we're doing. I work at a place called Picture Motion, and our whole thing is people convening in a room to watch a movie and then have a call to action at the end of the movie to create like social or cultural change because of that movie. Like, write your congressperson at the community center screening, or, commit to stop using disposable utensils or whatever it is. So we have to change our entire business model at my job to push and integrate virtual events. That's so interesting that it brings that up. So yeah, and you could see all these film festivals that are going to virtual screenings or webinars. I mean, this is like a real, we have the technology, we have the power, right? But it's just a major pivot for a lot of people.
It's really interesting. Like, if you've been living under a rock, you know that all the film festivals have gotten canceled. Movies are getting canceled. Theaters are shut down. I mean, I'm sure this is all common knowledge for people at this point. But yeah, I think virtual screenings are a good way to get around that. Like Stage 32, they did a whole thing trying to get South by Southwest films to executives, producers, production companies to kind of lessen the blow against filmmakers who were affected by the film festival being shut down, because that's kind of a huge thing. Imagine if your feature film or even your first feature film was set to premiere at South by Southwest, and then suddenly the festival gets canceled. It would be like the worst thing ever as a filmmaker. It'd be terrible.
But in terms of the economics, film economics, I don't think it's a massive deal. Controversial statement coming up. They already made the announcements. You have the Laurel. Sales agents, reps are going to get in contact with you if they want to see this movie. Is it really going to impact you? Maybe if you sell out that massive theater and you get standing ovation, that would certainly contribute to the buzz around your film. But those are rare cases. Those are outliers. So yes, I think it's more just a bummer. It's just a bummer for those filmmakers who felt really good and felt like they were picked to be a part of homecoming court, and then now have to be kicked off the stage.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm curious to hear from filmmakers who are in this situation, if that is actually true. If life goes on, if they're still getting offers and deals for their films, or if not being able to see it in front of an audience and have an audience respond while the buyers are in the room, if that's gonna really change things, and hopefully we'll have an episode or two with some filmmakers who had movies that were gonna be played at South by Southwest before it got canceled. So we'll see what those people have to say in the future. But I think I have a lot more to say about this, obviously, but we'll just talk about this in the main meat of the episode when Andrew joins us. But yeah, I think we should go on to our next segment, the mailbag. So this is an email from a really good friend of the show. I don't think he's actually ever been on the show before, or maybe has he? I don't know.
But he's a hero. He's a hero. He designed our logo. I've only met him once and I adore him.
He's written into the show before. We've read his emails on the show in the past. His name is Lucas Colshaw. He's a really, really wonderful person. He's also a fellow filmmaker. He wrote us a really wonderful email, and he had a question in it. And the question is, I am in the stage of post where I'm prepping to send the current cut of the film to a few select people whose opinion I trust to give feedback and notes. My question is, what do you think are the most valuable questions to include in the survey to optimize this process for a better edit?
I have a screening survey that I stole from my last boss. And if he's not listening, then I am free to give it out to Lucas, and we'll do so after we record this. But I also just wanted to say that I use test screenings as a way to figure out log lines. And if you create a survey, you could do SurveyMonkey or Google Polls or Google Surveys. And one of the questions is, describe the film in one sentence. You could start aggregating ideas for your log line, which I think are just such a pain to write.
So I've never done that before. That's a great idea to get people to work for you through this survey. That's amazing. What I've always done in the past, it's always been very film specific and cut specific even. I always tailor the questions to try to solve an issue that I'm having with the movie without blatantly asking people what that issue is. But some of the standard questions I like to include are like, what was the part that you're most bored in? What was the part that you you were most excited by? Was there anything that you felt like you were missing, or did you feel like you understood the story? It's like those kinds of really general questions, but it's really like I kind of design my questionnaire specifically around the cut to try to like solve a problem I'm having. So if it's like I'll ask a question, something like, did you understand this? Or what did you think when the character did this, or whatever. And it's all kind of like trying to design to figure out, like, did people really understand like what I was trying to convey in a certain moment even, and kind of like have those kinds of like really specific questions among the more general like questions, but yeah, do you have like a question or two that you always put on a survey that you really like?
I think I like to ask, what are what are your three favorite scenes, and what are the three scenes that weren't as impactful? Or even, you don't have to give a number. You could say like, what are your favorite scenes? Because I think people are going to give harsh feedback because you're asking for it and you need to hear it. But I always feel really good. There's like this saying that it's like a good movie or a great movie is like 3 good scenes and no bad scenes or something. And so it's a nice like reality check when you see that people like more than one scene in your film. So it'd say strong scenes, weak scenes, same thing for characters. Would you recommend this to a friend? Would you recommend it to a stranger? And then I'd ask about genre, because I remember making Speed of Life. The whole time I thought I was making a sci-fi film, and then I realized through polling of my friends that it was fantasy. It was fantasy. So, yeah. It's like you get a little bit of you get short-sighted when you're immersed in your own film, and it's good to get the context from others sometimes.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion to do. Like the genre question, like what genre do you think this movie is? I think that's a really great idea, because maybe you think you're making one movie and you're actually making another type of movie. I'm sure that's going to happen to me with the alternate. I'm almost certain. Any other last things to say about this? I think this is a really good question, and it's something I should be thinking about, because I haven't really done like a test screening in a long time. Usually like I'll just send cuts to people for feedback, like from specific people, but for a while, my first few movies, I was like obsessed with the test screening. I just thought it was like the greatest thing. So I did it a lot, like 5-6 years ago. My
last pieces of advice, are when all of this is over, and hopefully it will end at some point, have it in your living room. Have a screening in your living room. Don't rent out a screening room unless you have the budget. It's like you can use that money for post-production, and a lot of people like just waste a lot of funds putting hundreds of thousands of dollars into one focus group, and I just think personally in a micro budget world that's ridiculous. And B, do not ask too many directors for notes. It will blow back at you. It blew back at me, and then you'll have a lot of people who will give advice on how they would have made the film rather than helping you solve the problems. So I would say get editors in the room, get production designers, get people from all throughout the film industry, get non-film people, and get strangers. Try to lean not too much on other directors, I would say.
Like sometimes I'll say, even before I ask for advice, like I can't do reshoots. I'm not doing any reshoots. I have to work with what I have, and like that sometimes
I think that's really good. Yeah,
is helpful, because then people know like they can't give crazy ass advice. We're like, well, you should have a scene where the son goes to the great grandmother and blah blah. It's like you can't. No, like that doesn't exist. Anyways, I think we covered this. Great question. Thanks so much, Lucas, for sending that over to us. So yeah, I think it's time to get into our next segment.
You've probably noticed we've got a new format to the show, and it was suggested that we should shine even more of a light on female filmmaking voices. So we've created this new segment where we give female identifying filmmakers a prompt and let them tell a story in their own voice. This week's prompt was, how are you surviving COVID-19 as a filmmaker? I hope you enjoy.
Hey, I'm Ashley Maria, the director of Pioneers in Skirts. It's a feature documentary about what ambitious women are confronted with in their careers and what do we do to change it? What do we do to work together to get rid of those biases that women are confronted with that start playing a role in girls as young as 6 years old? So you can see this is a very action-based film. We really need to have impact with it, conversations. We launched it this year. Women's History Month was supposed to be our really big screening month. We had screenings, 2 or 3 screenings a week all around the globe. So you can imagine when the coronavirus was really taking hold, especially in the US, it was that first week of March. So luckily we got one screening out of the way, but then everything else was starting to get postponed. And I, as an independent filmmaker, that was the goal. That was something that I've been working towards literally for years. And so seeing it all just be swept away so quickly, it was really heartbreaking. And seeing just, I was going to travel to speak and I was going to meet with students and I was going to actually do the thing that I've been working towards. And so it was tough. It took me a few days, I guess, to kind of come to terms with it, really. With the outbreak of coronavirus, really, it kind of just threw my world upside down. And I'm not sure where my next round of income is going to come from. I usually work on set in production, and there's rumors that maybe July is when we'll all get back to it. So that's a few months of I have no idea. And then speaking opportunities can be done virtually, so I'm hoping that starts to pick up again. But what's good is my producer on Pioneers and Skirts jumped right into solution mode. So while I was in Los Angeles going, what the heck? She was in North Carolina saying, what do we do? And that was really a driving force that helped me as well. We created a Pioneer at Home screening opportunity so that families, while they're social distancing, can actually watch the movie together. Because like I said, the film needs to be talked about. There needs to be discussion afterwards. It brings up so many emotions and feelings, and that's what we wanted. So we're creating that with the Pioneer at Home so that families can talk with their kids. And then we're going to start reaching out to businesses again who are all working remotely. I mean, right now, companies are still just trying to figure out how they're supposed to move forward. I think about midweek, when we were all in our first week of quarantine, I started this little project where I was interviewing people from around the world about what they're going through as they deal with the coronavirus outbreak and all the sudden changes. And I think that was it turned into more therapy for me to just talk to other people about what's going on and the theories that we all have, the misinformation, just to hear really globally, we're all confronted with the same problem and we're all managing it fairly similarly. So I think that's been nice to use my skills as a documentary filmmaker to start these interviews. I still have to edit them. We're only a few days in, but I look forward to sharing those with people because maybe it'll help others. I mean, that's why I started making Pioneers and Skirts. It was a film that I needed. And so here we are, we have interviews that I needed. So as you can see, we have a business strategy for how we're going to handle this. And then personally, creatively, I'm working through these interviews and then also just figuring out how can I tap into my creative side while a lot of stuff is still unsure.
This is our audience building and distribution segment. Liz, what do you got for us today?
Audience distribution, yeah. So basically, we wanted to do a new segment where I guess but it really should be both of us, share tips on how to build audiences and how to navigate distribution in a healthy, sustainable, outside-of-the-box way. And I think I was pegged for this mainly because I worked at Sundance in the creative distribution sphere, and I work in impact distribution right now. So for our inaugural episode in this new format, I thought it would be best to share an overarching piece of advice that has to do with marketing and distribution. Something I say regularly to people is prepare to be disappointed. So there's like a real lack of data out there to detail how indie filmmakers are doing financially and emotionally, by the way. And that paired with being in the midst of a pandemic where social distancing is encouraged and where we're not really able to four-wall or do theatrical campaigns or semi-theatrical or community screenings, and we're all kind of stuck in the VOD world where there's not a lot of data transparency in general, we are in a time of chaos. So if you happen to be releasing a film at this precise moment, prepare to be a little bit disappointed by the numbers and by the experience, because our creativity is a little bit hampered right now. And I would start thinking of what are some ways where you can rejuvenate your campaign after the pandemic, and what are ways where you can invent ties when we're allowed to get together. Maybe as soon as we're no longer sheltering in place, you could have a massive screening party with all your friends and family, and it could be a reunion and a celebration of all the work you've done. There are ways to make distribution and marketing personal and fun and exciting. And I'd probably give this advice even if we weren't in a pandemic. Be prepared to be disappointed by the financial returns of your film. It's never going to be what you want it to be. And always lean on the fact that you're making movies to be happy too. And always look to the next project. It's a very long game. Whew, there we go.
Well, I have a couple questions. So one, like, now that we're all locked indoors, and if you're doing a primarily digital release, like, and a lot of probably digital marketing as well, like, does this really change much for you if you're releasing a movie that's like a VOD release only, all on streaming platforms or whatever? Like, shouldn't you just be like hitting it hard on Facebook and social media and like sending emails to people and like directing people to watch your movie? Because people have like nothing but time right now.
Well,
like,
that's not
perfect
true.
time to rent a movie.
I know you have a lot of time. I have like less time now. But that's anecdotal, right? And so what I'm trying to harp on about is like, we have no data. We have no data on whether people are actually open to trying new content in the middle of a pandemic. We have no data whether people want to support indie filmmaking on VOD in general. So yes, you could hit it hard on Facebook and digital marketing. That's incredibly important. But it's also been said that people's attention spans are even shorter right now. I mean, we're constantly finding information every single day about how to brace ourselves in the midst of COVID-19. People's healths are at risk. They're thinking about their family. They're thinking about their friends. They may not necessarily be wanting to just support you as an artist at this moment. I'm not saying give up. Like, certainly try to promote your release and try to promote your films. But just know that like there's something bigger happening right now, and people are distracted, and they may not be as magnanimous as they normally would be to support indie content.
I would really actually love to hear from people. Like, is this like been a disaster? Like, are you getting like nobody buying your movie? And you were expecting like a huge return, like better numbers? Or like you said, we don't have any data, but I wonder if we could get some data from people, like get some sort of feedback.
Yeah, and like if your distributor is encouraging, or if you're encouraging your distributor, or your distributor is encouraging pushing back at the release date, I'd love to know that too. Or are they seeing this as a potential opportunity to get people in their living rooms and enjoy the film when they're looking for escape? Let us know.
Yeah, let us know. And I think this is a perfect segue into our, talking about one other thing that we have going on here that people are not really paying that much attention to right now is our Patreon page. If you guys like this show and you want to hear more of it, you can come support us, even with $1. Like, if I know times are tight right now, and, uncertainty is in the future, and stock market's going down, all this stuff. But, if you like the show and you have $1, you could go to patreon.com/MMIH podcast and support the show and help us keep this little ship afloat throughout the future. Also, iTunes reviews are great. If you can't support with $1, what costs nothing is the iTunes review. If you guys have questions like Lucas Colshaw did, or topic suggestions, or anything at all, we'd love to hear from you. And again, our email is podcast@makingmoviesishard.com. How are you surviving in this new world of being quarantined and everything?
Well, it was so fast. It was like one day I was like, oh, I guess, there's this thing going around. And then like my girlfriend was like much more on top of this stuff. And she was like, we need to like be taking this seriously. And I was like, oh, okay. And then it just was like, okay, everything's shutting down. Like, I mean, I've been like kind of isolating or whatever for over a week now, but it's just been tough. I didn't have a refrigerator all week, so because
Oh my God, what did you do?
I just ate a lot of fruit and nuts and like oatmeal and stuff that I was basically like on a camping diet or backpacking diet. And I've also been extremely busy with work. Like a lot of people are shutting down, but my work is like ramped up. Like I'm
Right.
working every day, so it's weird. I don't know. It hasn't been as much of
Wow.
a change. Like the isolation part isn't that bad. The biggest part for me is like I can't go climbing at the gym or something, but I'm busy like stuck in the house working anyway. So I feel kind of like fortunate in that way.
I feel like everyone feels the way. Like this is just a funny reminder to me about how unhealthy I am. It's like everyone's like, God, I can't go climbing or I can't go jogging or like I missed my 5 times a week gym class, and I'm like, oh, I should have been doing these things. I have done none of these things. So I'm gonna adapt once coronavirus is done? Question mark.
Yeah, I guess how long is this gonna last? I mean, ugh, I really don't know. I mean, I'm looking at it as like a time to be really productive. Last week, like I'm working so much and then trying to just like get food together. Like I've been really itching to like work on my own stuff and trying to like clear time for it, but it's been tough. But now, like I think I hopefully in a spot where I can focus on that a bit more.
And for those who don't know you, this is a copywriting work, right? That you're doing from home. That's what you keep being kept busy with.
I've got my copywriting job, and then I'm also writing for Cartoon Network. So,
Oh wow!
I've been working on the second episode, which I'm going to turn in rewrite on today, and then I should be I might have to do one more rewrite, but then it might be clear for a little bit. I don't know if I'm going to do another episode or not. It hasn't been. I'm not really sure what the deal is
We should
because
we should probably
they're all
back
working
up a
from
little
home.
bit because we never talked about this on air yet. That like recently, Andrew, you've been on the show a lot of times, but in the last 3 months, you've started writing episodes for this Cartoon Network show. Is that right?
Yeah, I've been in the writer's room and pitching ideas and doing outlines and then writing scripts for a Cartoon Network show. I don't know what the rules are if I can say the name, so I'll just not do that for now. This is the second episode that I've done, and it's been really fun. It's been great.
So when this all happened, Cartoon Network didn't shut down. They're like still having you do rewrites, and they're still having you work on this thing.
For the immediate future, everyone, as far as I know on the show, is working remotely. I know that there are like audio records might be happening in the studio, but for the most part, it's shut down, and so all the writers are working from home and taking remote meetings and things. So I haven't been in the office since this started, and I don't know how it's quite going to work moving forward if I continue to like write on the show. I think we'll just have to do like virtual sessions where we break out stories, over the webs.
Yeah.
Well, so Andrew, you're currently on salary, right, with a major network, and also doing some additional work. So financially, you're probably not going to feel anything for the time being, like no real hit. Is that true?
Well, I'm not on salary at Cartoon Network. They just it's either hourly when I go into the office, or it's set rates for outlines and episodes. Like IATSE, they go by IATSE. So those are just flat rates for the most part, and then full time. And then I've always set my copywriting at 3 days a week so that I have time for other things. And right now, because of the COVID-19 be specific here. Because of that, my actually copywriting has like the company needs a lot more from me, and so I'm just stepping up and doing it more. So it's basically full time for them plus Cartoon Network stuff, and then all the other stuff on my end. So it's a lot. And yeah, I'm making more money than ever right now because stuff's actually gotten crazier for me. I feel really bad for all my friends who are strictly freelance and just having like a tough time. It's I don't know what's going to happen.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it.
What's up with you guys? I mean, are you, Alrik and Liz, I want to hear, what are your situations like?
So I'm a freelancer. So for me, like I'm, kind of just looking at a big blank slate right now. I was working on a movie like the week before this all went down. So I was like in Tahoe on this feature, getting paid like almost nothing, but I mean, it was still at least something, which was nice. And then immediately when I got back, I got hired to edit a bunch of videos for one of my clients because of the COVID-19 thing, because they were getting all their meetings canceled and they suddenly needed a distribution video that they could send to their potential distributors for their wine. And so I was editing 3 days straight, as soon as I got home. So that happened. And then I got another job that got canceled. But since it got canceled within 6 hours of the shoot, I basically got my full rate on it anyways. So I had these things happen right before it all went nuts. So I have a little bit of leeway. And then I keep on hearing rumblings of jobs, but obviously nothing's really materializing shoot wise. So I'm just kind of hoping that I get some more editing work. But honestly, I don't really give a shit because I should be I should be editing my movie. I have this feature, the alternate, that I shot in December, and I've got about 25 minutes of it edited together so far. But I've got a whole movie to edit. So I really just need to turn off everything, which is great because that's what COVID-19 does anyways. Everything's dead, and I'm getting a lot of text messages from my friends who I don't talk to a lot because everyone's not doing anything. but yeah, I'm just trying to focus on editing the movie and just giving it all my time. And I would love to come out of this thing whenever it ends, who knows, mid-April, May or whatever, with a full cut of my feature. That would be amazing. So I'm just focusing on that every day, just keeping my head down and editing on the alternate, which is perfect. It's perfect timing. This is a terrible disaster and everything, and really scary, but it couldn't have really come for a better time for me because I have this thing to do. if it came in October of last year, it would have been a disaster for me, but it came right now. It's oh, this is great.
My job, Andrew, is I work at Impact Distribution, and I'm the only employee in LA in my department at Picture Motion. So I'm used to working New York hours, and I'm used to working over email and Zoom and Google Hangout, whatever it is. So I'm able to work from home. And so I'm one of the lucky ones. But I'm watching, just as we all are, all our friends' productions get shut down, after my friend Dan Mervish, his feature, I think, may have finally been shut down, but he got through 2 weeks of a feature shoot. And then this girl I know, Clara, was about to shoot her first feature, and she was set to go, and they had to shut down. So just the idea of gathering all your budget and all your momentum and gathering all the schedules and then watching it all disappear in front of you. I mean, I'm supposed to shoot something in June, and we're just waiting to see. We're just waiting to see if we get to shoot in June. It felt like a safe time. So we're just crossing our fingers right now.
Oh, wow. Is that a feature?
Yeah, it is, but it has to do with the investments, having something to counter against. So it's we've been fundraising for over a year, and what do we have to show for it? Well, we've done a few days on the feature so far, one-off days, but in terms of principle, we need to get that off as soon as possible, and we're just waiting for COVID to die down.
That's just a rough scenario to have to wait and see about shooting. I mean, I'm glad that you've got everything in order. I mean, it's so cool that you shot another feature already this year, right?
Well, no, I released my second feature in January, and then we've been waiting to shoot this feature called Lady Parts for a while, and then right now we're casting, but we have offers sent out. We sent offers like 2 days before California was instructed to shelter in place, and so we're not pinging the agents and managers too much because we think it's just going to be rude and disrespectful because like everyone's dealing with just really horrific scenarios right now. So we're just kind of waiting to see when it is proper to reach back out to see if people are interested in coming on board. It's very weird. It's a very weird time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if your movie's in June, I wonder what your producer's doing. Like, are they like securing locations? Are they like getting everything completely ready to go? Can they even do that work now, or are they just basically waiting until like May until things get like a little bit more sane, where they can actually do that work?
We're refining the budget, so we don't even have a final budget yet to work off of, because we've been doing script revisions. But we finally, like, as soon as we hit a version of the script that we thought we could go out with, we went out with it, and that was, right before COVID struck. So we're budgeting that script right now, and then adapting the script to fit within the budget that we have, which is kind of my model. Is you gather as much money as you can, you have the script, and then you adapt the script for the money that you have in place, and then you just go. It's not a healthy model, but it's what we do. We have no backup plan right now, but I don't think it's too late for a backup plan. I mean, to devise one. I think maybe April or May is when we're going to be in the danger zone for not having a backup plan.
So this is kind of a fun conversation because we're all three, like you said, Liz, in unique situations where like our lives can move on during this COVID-19 thing. Like Andrew seems to be busier than ever. You may even get another episode of the show to write potentially, because it seems like Cartoon Network's still rolling, even if it's just from home. Liz, you have a full-time job and a feature that you're probably going to shoot in June. I've got a movie to edit. It's like we're kind of like all three outliers in a way from like what a lot of people are facing right now. Unless maybe we're not. Maybe a lot of people are like this. Like a lot of people are just working from home and lives are continuing. I don't know.
No, it's horrible out there. All of my studio friends, all my studio friends, their productions are on hiatus and they're going to have to go on unemployment. And I think that's really tough because we don't know when, these major films are going to get back on their feet, and we don't know. I think that's the hardest thing is the question mark, right? It's like, maybe you're fine this month, but like, are we all going to be sheltering in place next month?
Yeah. I mean, I live in Los Feliz, so I'm in LA and yeah, I think you're right. I mean, the hardest thing is like knowing how long this is going to last, because you can't like have the expectations are like all over the place, and you're hearing reports like, oh, we're going to need like 18 months. Like I've read that in the news, and it's like that's absurd. Oh, and or then people are like, oh, we need a full lockdown for a month, and like people are just talking, and it's like, no, it would be nice if we just had like some expectations, but it's hard to plan. I mean, even though like it's such an adjustment even for me, and like I'm in like a good situation compared to a lot of people, but even that's like like what is going on?
One guy who I work with a lot, Ed, who's been on the show, he's just making deck after deck after deck. That's like what he's spending his time on. And so like the idea is like when we're done with this quarantine that he can send these decks to different companies. Because I think things are going to get back to normal. I mean, or whatever, like back and running sometime. Like I can't imagine that this is really going to go on past June at the latest, right? Like we must have this figured out by then.
I mean, the issue is that like schools, at least in New York, because all my coworkers are, in New York and DC, and they were saying that schools most likely will shut down until next year, like until September. So there's like all of these parents are now trying to figure out how to work and how to take care of their kids for like the next several months, like not just a week, but just like, and then how are they going to pay for camp, or how are they going to like, I think that's what's insane is like the snowball effect of like one decision that like financially reverberates throughout an entire culture. Like it's just nuts. But I actually wanted to ask how is everyone getting through like artistically? Like, what are you watching to stay inspired? Or like, what are you doing so you don't get too much anxiety or too much panic?
Well, I'm playing a lot of video games with my wife. We've been playing Mario like every night, which has been really fun. Mario's been helping me exploring different kingdoms. We just got to the Mushroom Kingdom yesterday. That was pretty good. So that's one thing I'm doing. I'm also watching Narcos Mexico, and I'm watching Altered Carbon Season 2. I just finished The Outsider, which was really great. I was going to watch Outbreak, but then we played Mario instead. I don't know.
Oh, wait. I have to tell you a quick story about Outbreak.
Sure.
All my coworkers are like in their mid-20s. And my youngest coworker, I think, is 23. And sorry, our intern is like 23. And she comes to us during a check-in and she's like, guys, have you heard of this movie called Outbreak? It's with Dustin Hoffman. And I almost died. And she's like, it's like a monkey is like spreading disease. I just like, do you not remember how important this movie was and how like it traumatized all of us? Like, I don't know. Like, I was so in shock that she was just being introduced to it.
That movie freaked me out as a kid, and like I used to really follow the Ebola stuff because I read the book The Hot Zone when I was like 12. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy.
I don't know, like what can we be doing during this time? Like, I think, writing seems like a really great time to write stuff because you don't need to be with people to do that. Like, it's actually probably better to be like locked away to write for most people. So I don't know, that's something I wish I was doing more of, is writing. But Andrew, I mean, you're writing so much for both of your jobs. Have you been doing any creative writing of your own during this time?
I mean, I have, like, I finished a script a couple of weeks ago, and I need to get that out to competitions, and I'm kind of at this point in my writing where the last year has been, like, a lot of new education, really a lot of studying and thinking a lot about story, like character, like, really in my head a lot. I need to, like, reconnect to, like, just like inspiration, creative stuff. I think how I want to use this time is basically to get my work done and, have fun with it, and then completely unplug and just listen to records and like draw. And I think I just need to like explore and like take time to be creative because I take things so seriously. Like this last script that I just finished, like I'm happy with it, but at the same time, I'm like, I take it so seriously, like I'll like lose sleep over it, like like it's not worth, like, and it's just me, it's just pressure I put on myself. I need to like back off a little bit.
But it means you care. That's so fantastic that there's something that you care about that much.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, and I'm happy for that, and like I am. It just I also would like to write something that I can have a little bit of fun with, I think, and the Cartoon Network stuff's great for that. But I've also have a book that I wrote last year that I'm in the middle of rewriting, and I just kind of I want to stay busy and keep it a little loose because everything's so serious right now. Just like the prospect of going to the store is like, like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. Like I want like, a little bit of space to like have a little bit of fun.
That's awesome.
I just wanted to plug my lifestyle, which just seems very different to everyone else's, but it's really shitty 90s action films. That's what
I saw your post on Facebook.
I love that. Oh my gosh. All right, give me 3.
Okay, well, I'm new to this. I mean, like, so my partner is like, a very big fan of this genre. So I've already been introduced to a lot of these in the past. So we're dipping into real campy ones. So we started with Mortal Kombat, and I just really loved it.
I love Mortal Kombat.
But right? Okay, so then good. I saw Mortal Kombat 2. I watch that
once a year.
Yeah, so it's amazing. But Mortal Kombat 2 like really blew me out of the water because I loved it even more because it's
You liked Annihilation? Oh,
because it was so bad. It was so bad.
so bad. It's really bad.
I loved it. And then we went to Time Cop, which I very much enjoyed, and actually noticed a lot of similarities between Time Cop and my movie Speed of Life, and I really wish I watched Time Cop before I made Speed of Life.
That's funny.
So then we dipped into a not so great one. We watched Street Fighter, which I'm now currently in a Twitter conversation with strangers.
Street Fighter has so much wonderful things about it. It's Raul Julia's last performance. He's so great as
him.
M. Bison. Oh,
I
so
love
fun,
him,
so
but
fun.
it feels like a movie that was supposed to be a comedy, but it was directed as a straight action film. Like, the script is a comedy. The script is hilarious, but then there's like nothing is played for laughs. Like, I'm very confused by this movie.
I watched it a couple of years ago again after watching it as a kid a bunch, and I enjoyed it. There was some fun in there, man. Van Damme as Guile. Come on.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I'm very into Van
casting.
Damme right now because of, again, like, Time Cop was like, oh, Van Damme is great. Like, and I saw JCVD, and I'm like, oh, you can act. Like, you're a solid human.
Have you seen Hard Target yet? You got to see Hard
No.
Target.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Do you
Yeah,
think
you should
is
watch
that
Hard
next?
Target.
Is that
Yes.
Okay.
So John Woo's
Absolutely.
first American film, I think.
Oh, you're gonna love it. If you love Mortal Kombat Annihilation and Time Cop, like, this is gonna just make you so happy.
Well, we were looking for something else to do because what we did instead is I just went into nostalgia. So we watched Three Men and a Little Baby next.
Oh, nice.
So we're all over the place.
And a little baby. I love it.
Yeah. I think my default right now is like just going places safe and warm. Like, we've been getting cookie delivery. I've been wearing my Wonder Woman pants, and we're watching these Van Damme films. And like, for me, that's like, this is a safe world to be in when you're scared of going outside and you're scared of everything else that's going on. Like if I hadn't seen Paddington 2 like 5,000 times, we'd be watching it right now.
I've heard that movie's great.
I don't know. I've never seen Paddington or Paddington 2. So
Whoa.
I don't know. Should I do that today? Should
I will
the
watch Hard
Paddington movies?
Target, like, regardless of whether you, fulfill your end of the bargain. But I'd like you to watch Paddington 2 in exchange.
Only Paddington 2, not Paddington 1. I just skipped to Paddington 2.
Well, they're both fantastic, but I think Paddington 2 is superior. Yeah, I think it's superior. Wait, Andrew, do you have Paddington feelings? Do you have thoughts?
Well, I've heard from like everybody that they're great, and like Jordan, my writing partner, let's say, he has said like you should watch Paddington 1 and 2. So
Oh, wow.
everybody
okay.
says it.
All right, Paddington on the docket. See if I can convince my wife to watch Paddington with me. So I wanted to say one thing, Andrew, which I thought was interesting, that you talked about your own personal script giving you so much anxiety and like losing sleep over it and everything. But when you write for a Cartoon Network and it's a job and you're getting to do the thing that you want to do with your life for money for this company, like, you don't have anxiety over that kind of writing? Like, that, I think, to me, that would give me more anxiety. It's like, oh my gosh, like, am I going to get fired? Like, are they going to hate me? Like, are they going to hate my writing? Like, I think those are the kind of thoughts I would have if I had that kind of job, but not for you.
I actually have no anxiety about the Cartoon Network stuff at all because for some reason I have zero anxiety about it. I just have fun with it. The script stuff, I don't know. I put so much pressure on myself on features that it's just one area that's particularly hard for me sometimes to like let go of. And if it's only with feature films, okay, it's only with that. It's not with book. It's not with anything else. And I think it just comes from like, if I had to guess, it's like years of, making the two features where back in the day where that was like my entire life and everything, all my money, everything was riding on it. And now I'm trying to like shift. Not step out of the indie scene necessarily, but I'm sort of shifting focus in terms of where I'm trying to put work, and I just put so much pressure on myself that I'll lose sleep over it, especially after I've sent it off to like my writing group and I'm getting notes and the subject matter's kind of dark and I don't know how people are going to take it, or so there's just a lot of anxiety around it, which I'm trying to like really look at and like move away from it and let things flow. But I don't feel like that with any other work. I just go in and do it and like have fun. So
Well, because you're exposed, you're vulnerable, you're not hiding behind, not like you're hiding behind Cartoon Network, but you're not like put behind the brand. You are the brand when you're writing the scripts, and that makes perfect sense to me.
yeah, and it's also like exactly, like you're working with a team and you know that like there's going to be a lot of eyes on it, which is actually good in that context, because the more input on something like that just makes it all stronger, and you're all like, I feel like I'm there to help them, right? Like I'm there to help them get a story out and craft something good, and it's different when it's like, I feel like with a script, it's like, oh, this is all on me, and like this is supposed to be like a calling card, and like I have such a different mindset around it. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to hide behind, and also when you're dealing with stuff that's like on a spec that's really personal, that yeah, I'm like super exposed, and I've always been someone who like hides, right? So stepping out and putting something out there, especially when it's very dark and very specific and you don't know how people are going to take it, that does freak me out, which, you know, I don't have to deal with, like you said, with this other stuff.
I mean, I know that we're towards the end of the conversation, but let's make some sort of like COVID-19 vow for our personal work, maybe. Like, so maybe we check in a week or in 2 weeks, and we each have something that we want to get completed while we're on lockdown. Does that sound okay? I mean, It sounds horrible, but also why not?
Sure.
So, Alrik, you go first.
Okay, so I want to have at least 2/3 of the movie edited by 2 weeks from now, and like kind of getting towards the end of the film, towards the end scenes. And in addition to that, I'd like to have 20 pages written on my current feature that I'm writing. Andrew, you go.
Okay, 2 weeks. What I would like to have done would be to have chosen the next feature that I'm gonna write and have it fleshed out, at least so that I know what I'm gonna write. And I would like to probably have rewritten 2 or 3 chapters. Oh, actually 2 weeks. Yeah, let's say 3 or 4 chapters of the book.
Okay. In 2 weeks, I want to have watched Hard Target. And
that's most important.
I mean, that is one thing I'd like to have done. And then the other thing, yeah, there's more, is I think I need to read my third feature script, not the one I'm shooting in June, but because I didn't write that, but the script that it's called Sex and Jesus, and I just haven't read it because I'm just really afraid to look at it. I've just been hiding it away, and just because I know it's not good enough, and then I don't want to be like confronted with that yet. But I think the plan is to read it and then to start outlining a new script that maybe can be like improv based. So like to start outlining a beat sheet for a new script that's a little bit more fluid, because this is the feature that I want to make like with friends and family over weekends. So those are my to-do list items.
Oh, the improv-y features, what you want to do with friends and family over weekends?
Yeah, for Sex and Jesus, yeah.
Oh, which is Sex and Jesus.
Yeah, same thing. I just wrote a script, and I know it's not good enough, but the concept I'm really proud of. So I want to face it. I'm going to face it, guys. And then not to take this conversation too outwards because it's so cheesy, but like if anyone listening, why don't you do something like that right now? Why don't you think of like one thing you want to get done during the rest of this global pandemic and maybe report it back to us via Twitter, possibly. That would be great.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And on that note, I think we should wrap it up. But I don't know, for all those out there who are twiddling their thumbs, there are things to be done. Like you know, it's time for a creative project. You know, build something. If you haven't written something in a long time, maybe write something. If you got something that's been you've been ignoring that needs a re-edit, re-edit it. Work on your reel. There's so many things you could be doing. I would basically just like treat this time as like another version of the winter. Like when it's slow. Just do the things that you didn't get done during this last winter. I know I didn't do anything. So, there's so many things to do. But yeah, so that's our show. Thanks so much for Andrew for joining us to talk about the scary times with the coronavirus. Again, if you guys want to check out more about the show, you can go to our website at www.makingmoviesishard.com. You can find me on Twitter at AlrikB. And my movie The Alternate is at Alternate Film 1 on Twitter, and on Instagram and Facebook it's just The Alternate Film. And Liz, where should people go to find more out about you?
LizManischel.com. And Liz Manischel on Twitter.
Andrew, where can people find you? Where should people go if they want to know more about you and the work that you do?
AndrewJSchrader.com. And if you go to the free section, you can sign up for my newsletter and get a ebook for free of 13 very weird short stories. And you can also find me on Facebook. It's just Andrew Schrader. You can find my personal page and friend me there.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show, man. This has been a lot of fun. And yeah, Liz, thank you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.